Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham. Last summer's fatal shooting of Michael Brown sparked violent protest and put Ferguson, Missouri and the region on edge. But as John Jessup reports, one area church aims to calm the unrest with a message of God's love.
By day and by night, the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson is a city filled with tension, worn down after months of protests and protracted debates about race. But inside the walls of this church, a very different vibe.
When you walk into these doors, what you will encounter is the true God who is without prejudice.
Bishop Raphael Green pastors the Metropolitan Christian Worship Center, an urban-focused ministry in nearby St. Louis. For nearly 30 years, he's hosted the Urban World Summit, a rally to prayer and action to bring healing across racial and cultural divides. A timely message in the face of what's happening in Ferguson.
We've all been challenged to really forgive.
This year's keynote speaker, Bishop Harry Jackson. He urged the church to rise up and take the lead by showing the unity found in God's love and Christian love for one another.
Jesus was very clear that he prayed to Father that we would be one. Nothing says that more powerfully in this day than black, white, Asian, Hispanic, worshiping together, working together.
The summit also included a legal seminar with frank conversations about race, religion, and the rule of law to learn from each other's experiences. Captain Ron Johnson, who spearheaded the police response, was one of this year's panelists.
I think if we're going to change our community and change this nation, it has to be everyone.
Captain Johnson says Ferguson has come a long way since the early days after Michael Brown's death, and he credits area churches for taking an active role in helping the community.
And it's actually been a big part of the gains we've made in our strive toward peace.
Bishop Green says he started the summit after a spate of murders in the city in 1987 and began planning for this one a year ago. He believes the timing of the event, ahead of the grand jury's decision, was all part of a divine plan.
A year ago, I gave the invitation to ask Bishop Harry Jackson Jr. if he'd join with us. Had no idea that we would be right here at the culmination of this decision and so forth. And so obviously I believe that it's God's design.
For now, Bishop Green is praying the lessons learned here will be applied beyond the walls of the church to bring healing to the community through faith, forgiveness, and love. John Jessup, CBN News, St. Louis.
Residents of Buffalo, New York could find themselves in another bout with severe weather 1 week after an epic snowstorm. Several counties in western New York are now under flood warnings because of warmer weather. Mark Martin has this story.
Rising temperatures could turn 7 feet of snow into a mess. All that melted snow equaling more than 8 inches of rain. Officials in western New York warn residents to get ready for wide-scale evacuations.
A toxic brew is what happens in a flood. It has sewage in it, it has all sorts of runoff in it, and it does tremendous damage.
Those digging out from the monster blizzard in Buffalo, dealing with almost 80 inches of snow still on the ground, now turn their concerns to flooding. Forecasters expect temperatures to hit the 60s today with rain and increasing winds.
We just hope that it doesn't flood our house, or anybody else's for that matter. We don't want nobody to get flooded.
Officials say they are ready with evacuation plans and emergency shelters. Check out this flowing icy creek in West Seneca, New York. Emergency management leaders say when the water is moving, that's good because it's getting to where it's supposed to be. On the other hand,
generally once there's a jam, there's a problem there, that's when the water starts to back up and really come up.
If the water does flood, New York Governor Cuomo says there are dozens of boats, pumps, and sandbags for emergencies. But state leaders want residents to be on their guard. Mark Martin, CBN News.
More backlash over President Obama's executive order on immigration. Republican Ted Cruz is calling on the incoming Senate Majority Leader to defer the president's decision. Cruz says if the president implements lawless amnesty, the Senate should not confirm any executive or judicial nominees other than vital national security positions for the next 2 years.
The notion that this is just prosecutorial discretion is simply nonsense. The Constitution gives Congress the authority to establish our immigration laws, and what the President announced this week is a wholesale refusal to follow our immigration laws, to enforce our immigration laws.
Senator Cruz also noted President Obama acknowledged 22 times in the past 5 years he had no constitutional right to issue this executive order. We turn now to new developments in the case of an Emmy Award-winning investigative journalist. She relentlessly pursued the truth in several Obama administration scandals until she was stonewalled by the White House and her employers at CBS News. Now there's new evidence the White House may have worked with CBS to block her reporting. John Waggy explains.
When Cheryl Atkinson delved into the Fast and Furious gun scandal, reported on the disastrous rollout of Obamacare, then tried to uncover the truth of what happened to 4 Americans who died in Benghazi, something began to happen. The Obama administration used hardball tactics to discourage, block, and suppress her investigative work, and she says her bosses at CBS News did nothing. Now, a possible smoking gun. The federal watchdog group Judicial Watch forced the Obama administration to turn over some 42,000 pages of documents related to the Fast and Furious scandal. PJ Media reports one of those documents was an October 4, 2011 email from Attorney General Eric Holder's top press aide, Tracy Schmaler, calling Atkinson, quote, out of control. Schmaler told White House Deputy Press Secretary Eric Schultz that she planned to call CBS News anchor Bob Schieffer to stop Atkinson. Schultz's reply, good. Her piece was really bad for the Attorney General. Schultz told Schmaler that he was working with a National Journal reporter to target Darrell Issa, head of the House Government Oversight Committee. Issa conducted hearings on Fast and Furious as well as Benghazi. A few weeks later, the reporter wrote a critical piece on Issa. Atkinson claims in her book Stonewalled that her computers and phone lines were hacked and bugged by sophisticated parties most likely tied to the government. John Waggy, CBN News.
Violence is on the rise in Jerusalem. Officials say 3 young Israelis attacked a young Palestinian in the city. The victim is in good condition and police are investigating. In the West Bank, 2 young Arabs attacked a Jewish bus driver Saturday night, and unidentified assailants torched a Palestinian home. In recent weeks, Palestinian attackers have killed 11 Israelis, mostly in Jerusalem. Tensions are spiking there over Palestinian claims the Israeli government is trying to let Jews pray at the Temple Mount. That's the holiest site for Jews, but Muslims built a mosque there. Israel's cabinet approved a new bill declaring Israel as the nation state of Jewish people. Now the bill is headed to Parliament. If it's passed there, it will become a law. The bill is expected to inflame tensions with Arab and Israelis and Palestinians. The measure calls for recognizing Israel's Jewish character, institutionalizing Jewish laws as an inspiration for legislation, and delisting Arabic as an official language. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry reportedly proposed an extension of the nuclear talks with Iran. The deadline for the talks is midnight tonight. Israeli officials are warning the 6 world powers negotiating with Iran that a bad deal now or later would endanger the world. Here's Chris Mitchell now from Jerusalem.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu believes the West needs to keep up the economic pressure on Iran.
I think the key principle is this: don't dismantle sanctions before you dismantle Iran's capacity to make a nuclear bomb. And as I understand it, the Iranians are nowhere near to accepting that. And if, for any reason, the United States and the other powers agree to leave Iran with that capacity to break out, I think that would be a historic mistake.
Netanyahu says a bad deal would allow Iran to keep its thousands of centrifuges. With those centrifuges, Iran could enrich enough uranium in a very short time to build a nuclear bomb. Yuval Steinitz, Israel's Minister of Intelligence and Strategic Affairs, told reporters Iran is not being flexible.
But on the core issue of the uranium enrichment capability, they made almost no concessions.
Steinitz says the current deal has dangerous loopholes.
If these loopholes are not totally closed, it enables the Iranian to bypass the agreement and to make the agreement meaningless.
He emphasized what's at stake.
This is going to create a new dangerous world for decades. This is really about the future of the world, not just about the future of Israel or the Middle East or about the security of Europe and the United States.
Netanyahu says the proof is that Iran is developing ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Why in heaven's name does Iran need intercontinental ballistic missiles? They don't need those missiles to reach Israel. They need it to reach Europe and the United States. And the only thing you carry on intercontinental ballistic missiles are nuclear warheads.
For Israel, he said, all options are on the table.
Israel itself will always reserve the right to defend itself against any threat with its own power.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
An Oklahoma legislator has ordered a new Ten Commandments monument for the State House lawn after someone intentionally smashed into it with a car. Republican State Representative Mike Ritt's family paid $10,000 for the 6-foot-tall monument that was erected in 2012. Like the first one, the new granite display will be built entirely with private funds. A judge upheld the monument in September, saying it does not violate the state constitution. Coming up, freeing India's sex slaves through fashion. See how 2 British designers are fighting sex trafficking, one creation at a time. Sex trafficking has become a multi-billion-dollar criminal industry. The world is slowly waking up to this modern-day slavery and looking for ways to fight it. And as Caitlin Burke reports, a clothing company in London is helping victims of this sex industry, and they're doing it one stitch at a time.
Sonagachi is the largest sex district in Kolkata, India. Each day, more than 10,000 women stand in line to sell their bodies. Some enter the world of human trafficking so their families can eat, or because poverty has left them with no other option. These images and stories changed the lives of volunteers Lady Natasha Rufus-Isaacs and Lavinia Brennan back in 2009.
A lot of the local slum girls would come to this really small production unit in the afternoons, but that was so that, you know, they wouldn't be abused in the afternoon by the men sort of in their village.
We would teach them how to kind of sew and taught them very basic skills. So it was from there that we had the idea then to set up the business.
We love fashion, we love dresses, we love dressing up, and sort of working in the production unit in the afternoons, we realised that actually it would be amazing to help teach women skills that then, you know, would make them employable, or to help them live a sort of sustainable alternative livelihood. And I think as 2 girls, we thought, let's go into fashion.
And that they did, starting an ethical fashion label that's making a worldwide name for itself, thanks in part to one major high-profile customer, Kate Middleton, Duchess of Cambridge. Beulah London customers come in looking for an outfit that will make them look and feel beautiful. They leave with a purchase that's making a difference.
When we sort of first started the company, the vision was to have the women involved in the whole of the production. But as we sort of grow, we realised that wasn't quite possible given their skill set. And if you can imagine, the average age of a girl being trafficked is 13. So there's a lot of healing that has to go on before she can sort of go into employment. So we decided to start small, partner up with companies or businesses that were working on the ground with women who've been trafficked. So like Free Set.
The organization known as Free Set works to help Indian women escape the sex trade. They not only teach useful skills, but empowerment as well.
খুবই কষ্ট ছিল যখন লাইনে ছিলাম দিনের পর দিন খেতে পাইনি না খেয়ে থেকেছি এখন বাবার আশীর্বাদে সুখ দিয়েছে সুখ হয়েছে
আমি লাইন ছেড়ে দিয়েছি আমি মুক্তি পেয়েছি আমি সবকে বলতে পারবো যে আমি ওখানকার না আমি খুব আমার জীবন খুব ভালো আমার সুস্থ জীবন আমি ভালোভাবে মুক্তি পেয়েছি আমি সমাজের সঙ্গে মিশতে পেরেছি
Rufus-Isaacs and Brennan partner with Free Set. Customers can purchase Beulah canvas bags, which are produced directly by former trafficking victims. They've also started the Beulah Trust, which provides money for women to learn skills like embroidery.
From next season as well, we'll have the embroidery that we want to have on every single piece. So then every single piece has a story in a way and has had like the hand of the woman make and embroider.
The embroidery will be the Beulah logo. 2 bees in the shape of a butterfly.
The butterfly effect, so the idea of one small one small thing having a large effect, or one small change having a large effect elsewhere.
And I suppose that also relates back to Beulah and what Beulah stands for in the Bible is talks about coming out of a place of darkness into freedom. So the concept of the butterfly becoming something beautiful out of darkness. So.
The women who originally inspired these beautiful dresses continue to be at the heart of every design.
Every theme also relates slightly to the charity side.
Last season's design was kintsugi, a type of Japanese pottery.
It's the concept of a piece of pottery being broken and then put back together with gold kind of lacquer. So the idea that the piece is more beautiful for having been broken. So we had kind of, within the collection, we had these like beautiful kind of prints with this like gold crack in it.
One day, each Beulah London piece will carry the touch of a woman they're working to save. Until then, you can be sure that every purchase still makes a difference.
If someone buys into the brand, then obviously that's helping us as a brand grow. And that's when we really feel like we can have a big impact.
It's a company with a cause, and they're creating a beautiful change, one stitch at a time. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, London.
Up next, he was homeless, addicted to drugs, lost. Now, famous Motown recording artist Kim gives God all the glory for raising him up and redeeming his life. Detroit has seen its share of ups and downs recently, but one continuing bright spot is its rich music history and the long list of famous artists who still proudly call the city home. I sat down with one whose personal success story gives him hope. Detroit will also rise from the ruins. Mile-long stretches of decaying, dilapidated buildings paint a clear picture of Detroit's decline. Add to that the daily news of rising unemployment, political corruption, and an historic bankruptcy. You're a Detroit native? Still live there?
Yes.
How do you feel about what's happening all around you in that city? I mean, the headlines are usually not good.
And Detroit has definitely had some difficult times.
Kim is a Motown recording artist. The groundbreaking record label gave birth to Diana Ross and the Supremes, Stevie Wonder, the Jackson 5, and a long list of others whose sound made Detroit famous in the 1950s and 60s. Motown left the Motor City in the 70s, and since then, the exodus has only gotten worse.
We get beat up in the media, quite a bit, but this is a great time for opportunity, in Detroit. The people are invested in the city. They just put a Whole Foods downtown. Whole Foods don't come to town unless there's anticipation of great things going on in the city. And I'm still there. There's lots of love there. And, I expect great things from the city of Detroit, and you should too.
Kim financed his debut album with a credit card. He knows what it means to rise from the ruins. Growing up here in poverty, he became addicted to drugs after high school. I read that the last drink and the last time you took a drug was July 23rd, 1990.
Yes, sir.
So you've been sober more than 20 years.
Right.
Do you ever get tired of talking about that part of your life, being homeless and addicted to drugs?
No, that's our testimony. I'm only as grounded as my testimony, Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. When God has done something great in your life, we're supposed to let our light shine and hopefully minister to somebody else who may be going through something, and also to remember where we came from. It's important. My career is really built on my testimony. There's a segment in all of the live performances where, I talk about His grace and mercy in my life, and it's the most important moment of the show. Everything that happens before and everything that happens after is secondary. People need to know that that they're not doing this by themselves, that they don't have to do this by themselves, and that God has a plan for their lives.
Love songs are Kim's signature, and his latest is a tune that's simply called Jesus.
Jesus, Jesus, He's my refuge. Jesus.
I started writing that song probably a decade ago, and I didn't finish it I believe everything happens, you know, when it's supposed to happen. I didn't finish the song, and when I came back to revisit my Christmas album and add bonus songs to it, it was one that I went back and grabbed, and I'm very, very grateful that I did. And the song is bigger than all of us. It's not about us. It's about carrying forth, you know, the name of Jesus.
It ministered to me immediately, brought me to tears. Did it minister to you in the process?
Oh, absolutely. There were a lot of challenges in making the record. I had the record label on hold. You know, people were very upset with me because I was holding out trying to finish this last song. A lot of times it looked like it wasn't going to be done. I didn't know how it was going to come together. And when I heard it for the first time in its entirety, I cried, you know, and Ron cried.
Kim calls the song timely for his city and his country, and he is happy. The message of Jesus comes from him.
I think that it's important for secular artists who are believers to acknowledge that, you know, not just when we're accepting the Grammy, you know, yeah. But I mean, you know, like, look, this is real.
And right now, Kim is on his Passion for Love tour promoting his latest project, but Detroit is still indeed home base for him. Stay with us. We're coming right back. And finally today, in case you hadn't heard, today is the International Day of the Bible. Bible believers around the world are encouraged to share your love of the Bible with a friend, or perhaps check out a Bible app, or even post a scripture verse on social media using the hashtag Bible Celebration. And we'll have a report for you tomorrow on the Bible events happening here in the U.S. Well, that is going to do it now for CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Take the time to tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us again right here next time. Make it a marvelous Monday, everybody.